Thanks, Kylie. I know people have been sitting for a long time, so we'll keep this short and to the point. So when it comes to sustaining change, sometimes getting started is the easy bit. Now, if you're human, maybe you're an expert at building habits. I know I build habits. The most insidious habit that I challenge each of you to think about is the habit of getting started and not finishing. And that's like maybe deciding you're sick, going to the doctors, getting a course of antibiotics, taking half and then quitting. What do? We make the bugs stronger. And I want you to think for a second about the way that you make change and the way you sustain change. So with the person next to you, pick a partner. So person next to you, put your hand up if you'd like a different partner. All right, we'll work with who we've got. So with your partners, pick an A and a B. A's hands up nice and clearly. Yep, point to B, say you're doing it, should have been quicker. It's funny how life goes, isn't it? B, what I need you to do, just 30 seconds. B's, turn to A and say, what was a goal or a New Year's resolution you set out after and then you failed to get there and why? So B's, share that with A, 30 seconds, go. And 10 seconds just to finish off. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time. Please thank your partner. Give them a high five. Love your work. Very good. So today I'm going to give you two things that matter when it comes to stopping that habit of not building, the habit of not completing. And it's going to let you, when you set off for something, be free and fulfilled when you get to the end. So if you'd like to take a photo of that, you can get a copy of this presentation just so you're free to listen. And if you want anything on screen, most of it's pictures of me, so you might not want that. Because when I'll put it up again at the end, it's all right, I haven't sold you out. It'll be at the end. I was just a little tease, a little test. So when Kylie and Helen asked me, invited me here, they said they want to share my story. And as a keynote speaker, it was interesting to go, well, I don't actually have a story. So when I went back and I looked, I had to be honest with you and say my story started in Tasmania. Now, for some of you, you think of, yeah, go Tassie. Maybe some of you think of beautiful scenery, natural wilderness. Maybe some of you think of maybe not so beautiful people. Maybe you think of the odd Danish princess. It doesn't really matter. But when I think of Tassie and when my story started, I actually think of being bullied. I think Anna mentioned it. But for me, growing up, it was very, very unpleasant. It led to bad schooling, bad experience. And when you are bullied, you seek out friends that can protect you, friends that can fight. So I made very good friends with someone who was a boxer. Yes, his name was Rocky. And he was my best friend growing up, and he was very, very protective of me. Unfortunately, Rocky wasn't always there, wasn't always around, and that's the aftershot. You know how sometimes they say, you should see the other guy. Yeah, well, the other guy was getting high fives and shoulder rides, and that was me. So I did get my tooth back. Allowed me to have a couple of national TV appearances, if you count red faces. And moved on from there to really just going, and look, you know, maybe I need, maybe some of the attention I got was, well, enough said, really. So I looked at the themes in my story, and when I was 7, I started running. By the age of 17, I'd run 1 minute 56 for the 800 metres. Now, for some of you who might not be 800-metre runners, that's reasonably quick. Won me an underage state title, and would have won me, you know, great stories start with would have won me a gold medal at the 2004 Olympic Games in the women's division. So I was only ever a few. My dad said you're only ever a few inches short of being a champion. So that was my running career. I then started martial arts. So 17 started martial arts. 4 years later, promoted to the level of black belt in Taekwondo and a Dragon-style Lung Chu Kung Fu senior student grading. Then after basically really scraping through and failing high school, turned it around, attended At 22, the World Debating Championships as an adjudicator, proudly representing my university in adjudication, maybe not so proud in the karaoke competition, but that was, we've all got nighttime events, don't we? Conferences like this. And then everyone needs their Harry Potter moment. So this was mine, graduating with a law and commerce degree at 23 with my mother and grandfather, who neither of them had the opportunity to go to university. Obviously, the next conclusion is at 24, I ran away with a circus. Literally, Circus Spennevice in Denmark had my patronage. So that was my story, and when I looked back, what was interesting about that was the thing, is that fear was my driver. Debating, so I could talk my way out of trouble. Athletics, so I could run away. Martial arts, so I could fight when cornered. Law, so I could sue when beaten up. And comedy, so I could laugh at the futility of my own situation. So it all changed when I met this guy, a guy called Dave Trott, an absolute genius. Now he says, be authentic about your inauthenticities. Dave's a genius. My 18 months with Dave and working under Dave, I'd learnt more than the 18 years of my communications career separate to Dave. Now sometimes great leaders speak in riddles. So what I heard Dave was say, authentic about inauthenticities you must. So it took a while. No Yoda references? Obviously not. Maybe it's a Star Trek conference. So when I heard that, it took a while for it to land. It took years for it to land. And what I got was where I was coming from was still being driven by fear. Coming from a place of fear meant that I was using force. I was getting results, but I was forcing my way there. It was taking energy. It was causing friction. And when I looked back at the expense list, that what it had cost me a cavalcade of broken relationships in my personal life and in my work life. It meant that each one of those achievements that I popped in the achievement box actually left me hollow and unfulfilled. And when I looked at my ability to sustain the change I wanted, 23 courses of antibiotics in a single year, landing in hospital twice with pneumonia, tells the story to a medical audience of an immune system that was shot. I was running on adrenaline, and the cost of that force was having a huge toll on me. There needed to be a better way of approaching things where I could get results but sustain the effort required. So now, what's changed? Will I still get results that I'm really proud of? And that's me with an award from the world's #1 CO network, where I get to coach, I get to mentor, I get to be a resource speaker for them. I was lucky enough to win Speaker of the Year 3 times in 4 years with that organisation, which I was really proud of, but not the achievement, who I was being and how I was going about it. And I'm even prouder of the relationship. So Rocky's now passed. I've got a new best friend, my wife. I've known Magda for 10 years now, and we have a great relationship. We have a beautiful little princess, Liliana, who I get to go on date nights with one-on-one once a month. I have a beautiful little boy. He's such a little boy. I go out with a date night, a man date with him once a month. Got a furry princess. And then if I decide to dress as Pikachu and go go-karting around the streets of Tokyo, if that takes my fancy, I can do that too, but free and unencumbered. So 2 kids at home, 40 at work, step change has grown exponentially to now 40 people, 6 offices, and we do great work with great clients like the Australian College of Nursing. So if that's all so good, what's the bad news? Is that none of that's a destination. And when we talk about sustaining change for what end, I want you to get that it's not one epic battle. It's not one massive conflict of overcoming something. Success is a choice of where to focus and who you're being about it every single day. It's not a destination and a journey, it's a choice and a challenge that comes every single day. And I want to share with you the things that I've discovered that matter in the ability to select what to focus on and how to go about it. The first thing around focus is purpose. At Step Change, to inspire step changes in businesses and people lights us up. That's why our clients come to us. My personal purpose, to equip people to realize their potential, leading them to live fulfilled lives. Do you see how those two things fit? And when I'm focused on things that align with my purpose, I'm not forcing things. And for the micro focus in there, I want to share with you a model, the way I think about happiness and time. Now, there's no correlation between wealth and happiness. Well, there is. Up to about 20% more than mean levels of income, money will buy you happiness. Beyond that, no correlation whatsoever. In fact, there's sometimes a counterintuitive, is that in life we want happiness. What's happiness? The expectation reconciled with the reality or delivery. That leaves us to the bottom level here of what we call the pleasure piece. Cocaine's the cookie, rock stars chasing the high. When we're after the stuff, the night out, the thing, the car, all the stuff that we focus on in that quadrant is bound to disappoint. Why? Because the expectation level's here, and where's the reality? What's the gap? Leads to disappointment. So we want the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and it's the adaptation that drives the pleasure trap, and it means if you're focused there, it's not a game you can win. What's the next level? Passion. This is where we hit peak state, moments of flow, the things that light us up, enjoyment. There's value in this. It's important to play here. But happiness doesn't come from within, happiness comes from between. And we need to look at the people we take on the journey with us. When Susie spoke this morning, she talked about a lot of the utility she gets from the business coming from the people that go on the journey with her and the environments she creates with them. That's where the value is. And if you look at this time horizon or axes here, Kahneman and Tversky in Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow talk about the two selves, the experienced self and the remembering self. What do we notice about experiences? Over time, they get more valuable. What do we know about depreciating assets? They depreciate over time. The physical things become less valuable. The experiences become more valuable. The payoff. The working for something big. The focus, the applied effort that leads into the achievement. And then purpose. The moments of transcendence when we can get beyond ourselves and contribute back at that next level. So that's the first part of what we focus on. Have a purpose in your organization, align a personal purpose, and then be very clear about what the payoff is of the type of happiness you're trying to derive. Then we move on to who we're being about it. We want to be at cause. And these are the things that most people miss when they say, I'm going to do this. They don't stop and actually check off these things at the start, and therefore they get stuck. First one, clear. You want to be crystal clear on what success looks like. Self-control loves a loophole. Unless you're prepared to be black and white, forget it. You then want to have connection. What does that mean? We're humans. We're emotive. We make emotional decisions and then rational justifications. You want to be able to picture yourself at that point, at that destination, and let it come to you. Let that connect with you now. You want to be clarity, connection. The next one is authenticity. You need to model the pathway. You need to be able to be clear on not the destination, but the steps required and the path to get there, broken down into little steps. It's only when you look at what's required on the pathway should you be honest or authentic enough to say, do I still want to go on that journey? You then need to be really honest about the problems. If this is such a good idea, if this is the first time you've said, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to do this, it doesn't matter what it is. You need to be really honest about why you haven't done it in the past, why have previous attempts failed, and be very honest of the obstacles and the problems that are going to be there. Authentic. You. Why? You need to know why you're doing it. Why does it matter for you? Why does it matter for others? And here's the kicker. Then you need to put those reasons aside and choose it for you. Why? Because unless you're prepared to choose it for you, why? Because you chose it, why? Because you chose it, you will be niggled and cut away and torn down, and something will get in the way. Reasons change, people change. If you choose it for you and from you, it won't. The second thing is you need to be prepared to address the cost. If you don't change this, what is the cost in the tangible and the intangible of how that all stacks up? Yeah? The two things, choice and cost here. Success. If you're waiting for the big payoff and destination, you will most likely fail. You need to be prepared to, in advance, set the rewards, not for the outcome, but for the efforts, the inputs. Incremental rewards of progress are critical. What's the easiest way to get that? An app on your phone like Streaks, Strides, one of those two apps, gives a dopamine hit every time you do something good that progresses you, reward yourself. You need to have a pre-agreement of the rewards and also the penalties for when you slip up. You need to be able to give yourself that high five, that reward regularly. And then you need to stop thinking about success as goals and stuff and think about as keystone habits. Successful people build the habits that make the outcome an inevitability. Don't think of goals, think of habits and how you build those habits. How long does it take to build a habit? 66 days. 66 continuous days is the mean amount it takes to build a new habit. What happens at 66 days? It takes 95% less effort than the first time you do it. If you start thinking in terms of habits instead of outcomes, you will equip yourself for so much more, so much easier. And then environment. Ignore this to your peril. Stanford prison experiments back in the 1970s proved categorically that it's not who you think you are. It's not even who you say you are. It's not your genetics and your predisposition. It's the environments you let yourself find yourself in that have the greatest determination of your success or not. So you need to understand your environment. You need to understand the power of triggers for you. You know, the most simple example of a trigger, if you want to go running before you go to bed, put the shoes and the running gear between you and the door so you actually have it in your way. That's what I'm talking about with understanding the environment and the triggers. And then you need to be prepared to enroll your environment. Don't go it alone. People who try and go it alone, they rarely make it. Look for the accountability partner, but also the emotional nourishment of people who've been there before, of people who really have an alignment of getting you there for the right reasons. Easy to say, hard to do. So those are the 5 things that mean you're at cause, and it comes back to sustaining change is about being choiceful of the 2 factors of what you're focused on and who you're being about it. So I said I'd put it back up again. If you'd like the slides, they're there. Thank you so much for having me, and I'll hand back to Kylie. Photo time!